She collapsed outside a biker bar at dawn, running from the one man no one would believe was dangerous, the town sheriff. The bikers saw the terror in her eyes and did something unexpected. They didn't just hide her. They destroyed him. Maya's lungs burned as her sneakers slapped against the cracked asphalt. The pre-dawn air bit at her throat with each desperate breath, but she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when she'd finally found the courage to run. The back road stretched endlessly before her, flanked by dense Wyoming pines that seemed to close in with every step. Her duffel bag, hastily packed 3 hours ago, slammed against her hip in rhythm with her panicked sprint. Inside, 2 changes of clothes, her grandmother's necklace, $300 in cash, and a burner phone she'd bought last week with money she'd saved from tips at the diner. Behind her, somewhere in the darkness, Sheriff Marcus Dalton was probably just waking up. He'd notice her absence soon. He always did. Maya's hands trembled as she ran, remembering last night, the final straw that had shattered her paralysis. Dalton had shown up at her apartment again, uninvited, holding takeout from the Italian place she'd mentioned liking once. Just once. 3 months ago. "Thought you might be hungry," he'd said, standing in her doorway with that easy smile that made everyone in town trust him. "Saw your light on. Figured you were working late on those college applications." How did he know about the college applications? She'd never told him. But somehow, he always knew. What she ate for breakfast. When she worked double shifts. Which route she took home. The pastor she'd confided in about feeling uncomfortable had suggested she was overreacting. After all, Sheriff Dalton was just being friendly, looking out for her since her parents had passed. But friends don't track your every movement. Friends don't show up at 11 p.m. with your favorite food you never told them about. Friends don't rest their hand on the small of your back and let it linger just a second too long. The final horror had come when she'd politely declined the food, saying she was tired. His smile had faltered. Just for a second. In that micro-expression, she'd seen something dark and possessive flicker across his face, something that made her blood run cold. "Maya," he'd said softly, his hand catching the door before she could close it. "I've been very patient with you. Very understanding. But I'm starting to feel like you don't appreciate everything I do for you." The threat had been veiled but unmistakable. This wasn't friendship. This was ownership. And she was trapped in a town where he wore the badge and everyone loved him. So she'd smiled, taken the food, and waited until his patrol car disappeared down the street. Then she'd grabbed her go-bag, the one she'd been secretly preparing for weeks, and ran. Now, 5 miles outside Pinewood, Maya's legs were giving out. The adrenaline that had carried her through the night was evaporating, replaced by sheer exhaustion. She'd been running for over 2 hours, sticking to back roads and deer trails, avoiding the highway where his deputies might spot her. A stitch carved into her side like a hot knife. Her vision blurred with tears of pain and fear. Just as she thought she might collapse in the middle of nowhere, a weathered wooden sign emerged from the darkness. Iron Mountain, 1 mile. And beneath it, hand-painted in red. Lucky's Bar, cold beer, hot food, no judgment. Maya forced her legs to keep moving. 1 mile. She could do 1 mile. The sky was beginning to lighten, dangerous. Dalton would be looking for her by now. He'd check the bus station first, then the highway. He'd put out a welfare check to his deputies, paint himself as the concerned friend just making sure she was okay. No one would question him. No one ever did. The bar appeared like a mirage, a low-slung building with a gravel parking lot full of motorcycles. Harleys, mostly, their chrome catching the first rays of dawn. The place looked rough, intimidating even, but Maya had run out of options. Her legs buckled as she reached the front steps. The duffel bag slipped from her shoulder, hitting the ground with a dull thud. Her vision tunneled, black spots dancing at the edges. She reached for the door handle but her fingers wouldn't cooperate. The last thing she heard before the darkness took her was the bar door swinging open and a deep voice calling out, "Hawk! We got someone down out here." Strong hands caught her before she hit the concrete. Maya tried to speak, to warn them that a sheriff was coming, that they shouldn't help her because it would only bring trouble, but her body had completely shut down. "Easy, easy," a woman's voice said, close to her ear. "You're safe now. Just breathe. Safe." The word felt foreign, impossible. Maya hadn't felt safe in 8 months, not since Sheriff Dalton had first started showing up at the diner with that friendly smile, asking how her day was, remembering details she'd never shared. As consciousness slipped away, Maya's last coherent thought was a prayer: "Please don't let them send me back. Please don't let them call him." But why wouldn't they? He was the sheriff. The good guy. The one everyone trusted. And she was just Maya Chen, the orphaned waitress with no family, no connections, no reason to run, except for a gut feeling that no one had ever believed before. The darkness pulled her under completely, and for the first time in months, Maya stopped running. She just didn't know yet that she'd collapsed at the doorstep of the only people in Wyoming who would actually believe her. Maya woke to softness, a pillow under her head, a blanket over her shoulders. For a disorienting moment, she thought she was back in her apartment, that the running had been just another nightmare. Then reality crashed back, and she jerked upright, heart hammering. "Whoa, easy there," the woman's voice came from a chair near the door. "You're okay. You're safe." Maya's eyes adjusted to the dim light. She was in a small room with concrete walls, a single bed, and a sturdy door with multiple locks on the inside. The woman watching her was maybe 40, with dark hair pulled into a braid and kind eyes that held no judgment. "Where?" Maya's throat was raw. "Where am I?" "The clubhouse." "Steel Guardians MC," the woman stood slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. "I'm Risa. You collapsed outside Lucky's bar about 3 hours ago. We brought you here to recover." Maya swung her legs off the bed, panic rising. 3 hours. Dalton would definitely know she was gone by now. "I need to leave. I need to." "You need to drink some water first." Risa moved to a small table and poured from a pitcher. "Then we can talk about what you need." The kindness in her voice made Maya's eyes sting with unexpected tears. She accepted the water with shaking hands, drinking greedily. When had she last had water? Yesterday afternoon? "Your bag's right there." Risa nodded to the duffel sitting by the bed, untouched. "We didn't go through it." "That's yours." Maya grabbed it instinctively, hugging it to her chest. Everything she had left in the world. A knock on the door made her flinch. Risa noticed, her expression shifting to something harder, more alert. "It's just Hawk. He's the club president. He'd like to talk to you, but only if you're ready." Maya wanted to say no. She wanted to grab her bag and run again. But where would she go? She had $300 and no plan beyond get away from Pinewood. "Okay," she whispered. Risa opened the door. The man who entered had to duck slightly under the doorframe, tall, broad-shouldered, with graying hair pulled back and a face that looked like it had seen every hard thing the world could offer. But his eyes, like Risa's, held something Maya hadn't expected: patience. "Maya," he said, not a question. He must have checked her ID in the bag. No, wait. Her wallet was still in her jeans pocket. "I'm Hawk. You don't have to tell us anything you don't want to. But you ran a long way to get here, and you looked scared. If someone's after you, we'd like to help." Maya's laugh came out bitter. "You can't help me. Try us." She looked between them, these strangers with their leather vests and motorcycle club patches. The Steel Guardians. What did that even mean? Were they criminals? Would they trade her situation for something worse? But she was so tired of carrying this alone. "He's a sheriff," Maya said finally, her voice breaking. "The person I'm running from. He's Sheriff Marcus Dalton of Pinewood. And I know, no one's going to believe me because he's charming and everyone loves him and I'm just." "We believe you." Hawk's voice was quiet but absolute. Maya stared at him. "What?" "We believe what you say." He pulled up the other chair, sitting so he was at eye level with her instead of looming above. "No one here has anything to gain by lying. If you say he's dangerous, he's dangerous. If you say you needed to run, you needed to run. That's enough for us." The tears Maya had been fighting finally spilled over. She pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to hold back the sob building in her chest. When was the last time anyone had simply believed her? Risa moved closer, placing a gentle hand on Maya's shoulder. "Take your time. You're safe in this room. No one's coming through that door unless you say so." Maya let herself cry, really cry, for the first time since this nightmare had started. When she finally caught her breath, she told them everything. The way Dalton had started showing up everywhere. The gifts she never asked for. The way he knew things he shouldn't know. The veiled threats when she tried to create distance. "Last night, he came to my apartment again," Maya said, her voice steadier now. "And I saw it in his face, this look that said he was done being patient. Like I'd used up all my chances to cooperate. So I ran." Hawk and Risa exchanged a glance that Maya couldn't read. "He'll be looking for me," Maya continued. "He'll file a missing person report or something. Make it look like he's the concerned citizen. And everyone will help him because he's got the badge," Hawk finished. "Yeah, we know how that works." Something in his tone made Maya look up. "You've dealt with this before?" Risa touched the patch on her vest, the Steel Guardian's emblem. "This club exists for one reason, to help people who can't help themselves. People running from partners who won't let go. Kids escaping bad homes. Anyone trapped by someone with more power." Maya's breath caught. "That's what you do?" "That's what we do," Hawk confirmed. "And Maya, you're not going back to Pinewood. Not unless that's what you choose. But first, we need to move you somewhere safer. Somewhere he won't think to look." Sheriff Marcus Dalton stood in Maya's apartment, his expression carefully arranged into concerned neutrality. Her landlord, Mrs. Patterson, hovered in the doorway, wringing her hands. "I just don't understand it," the elderly woman said. "Maya's such a quiet girl. Always pays her rent on time. Where would she go?" Dalton surveyed the small studio with practiced eyes. The bed was made, Maya was always tidy. But the closet door hung open, and he could see gaps where clothes should be. The bathroom counter was missing her toothbrush. He'd memorized every detail of this space during his previous visits, and the absences screamed at him. She'd planned this. The realization sent a cold spike of anger through his chest, but he kept his face neutral. Concerned. The perfect public servant worried about a troubled young woman. "Any idea when you last saw her?" he asked gently. "Yesterday afternoon. She said hello when she came home from her shift at the diner." Mrs. Patterson twisted her cardigan. "Sheriff, you don't think something bad happened, do you?" Dalton placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I'm sure she's fine. Young people sometimes make impulsive decisions. I'll ask around, see if anyone's heard from her." He paused, letting a note of sadness enter his voice. "I've been worried about her lately. She seemed stressed. I tried to help, offered to be there if she needed someone to talk to, but she kept pushing me away." "Oh, that poor girl," Mrs. Patterson said, buying it completely. "Losing her parents last year was so hard on her. Maybe she just needed to get away for a bit." "Maybe." Dalton gave her his warmest smile, the one that made people trust him implicitly. "If you hear from her, please let me know right away. I just want to make sure she's safe." He left the apartment building and sat in his patrol car for a long moment, gripping the steering wheel. Maya had been so perfect, young, isolated, grateful for attention after her parents died. He'd taken his time, been patient, built the foundation carefully. And now she'd thrown it all away. She thought she could just leave him. Dalton started the engine and drove to the Pinewood Diner. The morning rush was in full swing, and heads turned when he walked in. They always did. He'd cultivated his reputation carefully over the past 6 years, the friendly sheriff who knew everyone's name, who coached Little League and organized the town fundraisers. "Morning, Sheriff." Betty, the owner, called from behind the counter. "Coffee?" "Please." He slid onto a stool, arranging his face into troubled concern. "Betty, I need to ask you something. Have you heard from Maya?" Betty's smile faded. "Maya?" "No, not since her shift yesterday." "Why? She didn't show up for work today?" "Well, no, but," Betty's eyes widened. "Is something wrong?" Dalton sighed heavily, like a man carrying a burden he wished he didn't have to share. "Her landlord called me this morning. Maya's gone. Took her things and left without a word to anyone." The diner went quiet. Several regulars leaned in to listen. "I'm worried about her," Dalton continued, pitching his voice so the whole diner could hear. "She's been through so much, losing her parents. And lately, she seemed, I don't know. Paranoid, maybe? I tried to check on her, make sure she was okay, but she kept avoiding me." "Oh no," Betty breathed. "You don't think she'd do something drastic?" It was perfect, Betty had supplied the implication herself. Now the whole town would think Maya was having some kind of breakdown. "I hope not," Dalton said gravely. "But I need to find her. If anyone hears anything, a phone call, a sighting, anything, please contact me immediately. I just want to know she's safe." He spent the next hour making similar stops around Pinewood. The library, where Maya sometimes studied. The grocery store. The gas station. At each location, he told the same story: concerned sheriff, troubled young woman, worried friends. By lunchtime, the whole town would be talking about poor Maya Chen and her mysterious disappearance. His phone rang as he pulled into the sheriff's station. "Deputy Evans." "Sheriff, I found something. You said to check the bus station?" Dalton's pulse quickened. "And?" "No one matching her description bought a ticket. But I showed her picture around. The clerk at the Quick Mart across the street thinks he saw someone who looked like her walking north on Highway 14 around 3 a.m. North. Toward the county line." Dalton pulled up a mental map. There wasn't much that direction, mostly Forest Service roads and a few scattered properties. And Iron Mountain, that nowhere town with nothing but a gas station and a biker bar. "Good work, Evans. Keep asking around. Someone must have seen her." He hung up and sat back in his seat, thinking. Maya wouldn't hitchhike, she was too careful for that. She'd walked 5 miles in the dark, running scared. From him. The anger he'd been suppressing all morning surged up, hot and toxic. He'd given her everything: attention, protection, affection. He'd been patient while she played hard to get. He'd ignored her little rejections, knowing she'd come around eventually. They all did. But Maya had run. She'd actually run. Dalton's hand tightened around his phone. She'd made a mistake. A big one. Because now he had the perfect excuse to bring her back. Missing person. Welfare check. Everyone in Pinewood would help him find her. Hell, they'd expect him to find her. And when he did, Maya would learn what happened to people who embarrassed him. The ride in Reese's truck was quiet except for the hum of tires on asphalt. Maya sat in the passenger seat, her duffel bag clutched on her lap, watching the Wyoming landscape roll past. They'd been driving for nearly an hour, heading deeper into the mountains, away from pine wood and everything familiar. "Where are we going?" Maya asked, breaking the silence. "My aunt's ranch," Risa said, her eyes on the winding road. "It's remote. Private. No one knows about it except family and the club. You'll be safe there while we figure things out." Maya wanted to believe her, but fear had become her constant companion. "What if he finds me?" "He won't," Risa's voice carried a certainty Maya envied. "Dalton doesn't know we exist. He'll be searching bus stations, motels, asking around Pinewood. He won't think to look for a ranch 30 miles outside his jurisdiction." They turned onto a dirt road marked only by a weathered mailbox. The truck climbed through pine forests and open meadows until a small ranch house appeared, nestled against the mountain like it had grown there naturally. A barn stood nearby, paint peeling but solid. Horses grazed in a fenced pasture, their heads lifting at the sound of the approaching vehicle. An older woman emerged from the house, silver hair in a long braid, wearing worn jeans and a flannel shirt. She moved with the easy confidence of someone completely at home in her own skin. "Aunt Jo," Risa said as they got out. "This is Maya." Joe's gaze swept over Maya with assessment but no judgment. "You look like you could use a hot meal and a decent night's sleep." "Thank you," Maya managed. "I don't want to be a burden." "Stop," Joe held up a hand. "You're not a burden. You're someone who needs help. Big difference. Come on inside." The ranch house was small but comfortable, worn furniture, faded quilts, photographs covering every wall. It smelled like coffee and wood smoke. Joe led them to a cozy kitchen where a pot of stew was simmering on the stove. "Sit," Joe commanded, and Maya found herself obeying. Risa helped her aunt dish up bowls of stew with thick slices of homemade bread. Maya couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten a real meal. Yesterday's lunch? The day before? She ate slowly at first, then faster as her body remembered its hunger. Joe and Risa exchanged glances but didn't comment, just let her eat in peace. "The guest room's made up," Joe said when Maya finally set down her spoon. "It's yours as long as you need it. No rush, no expectations. The bathroom's down the hall, there's towels and anything else you might need." Maya's throat tightened. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Joe sat down across from her, her weathered hands folded on the table. 20 years ago, I was running too. Different situation, same fear. Someone helped me when I had nowhere to go. Gave me this place, actually, left it to me in her will because she knew what it meant to have sanctuary. Now it's my turn to pass it forward. The Steel Guardians helped her, Risa added quietly. Different members, same mission. That's how I got involved. How a lot of us did. Maya looked between them, these women who had opened their lives to a stranger. "I don't understand. Why would a motorcycle club do this?" Risa smiled. "We're not what people think. Yeah, we ride bikes and wear leather. But that's not what defines us. You'll learn." After dinner, Risa showed Maya to the guest room. It was simple but clean, a double bed with a patchwork quilt, a dresser with a mirror, a window overlooking the pasture. Maya's reflection in the mirror startled her. She looked hollowed out, dark circles under her eyes, her black hair tangled from the run. "There's clothes in the dresser if you need them," Risa said. "Probably not your style, but they're clean. And Maya, you don't have to tell anyone your story again if you don't want to. We believe you." That's settled. After Risa left, Maya stood at the window, watching the sun sink behind the mountains. The horses moved peacefully in their pasture, unbothered by her presence or her problems. For the first time in 8 months, she felt like she could breathe without checking over her shoulder. She unpacked her duffel bag slowly, the few clothes she'd grabbed, her grandmother's necklace, the cash she'd saved. At the bottom was the photograph she'd almost left behind, her parents at her high school graduation, all three of them smiling. Before the accident. Before everything fell apart. "I'm sorry," she whispered to their faces. "I know you wanted me to finish college, to make something of myself. But I can't do that if I'm looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life." A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Joe stood in the doorway with an armful of towels. "Thought you might want a shower," she said. "Take your time. No one's going to rush you here." That night, Maya stood under hot water until her skin turned pink, washing away the fierce sweat and road dust. When she finally crawled into the unfamiliar bed, she expected nightmares: Dalton's face, his hand on her door, that possessive look in his eyes. Instead, she slept dreamlessly for the first time in months. Outside, Risa sat on the porch with her phone, texting Hawk, "She's settled. Looks like she hasn't slept in weeks." His response came quickly, "Good. Let her rest." Dalton made his first move this morning, filed a missing person report. "We're tracking it." Risa's jaw tightened. So it was beginning. The hunt. But this time, the prey had protectors who knew exactly how men like Dalton operated. This time, things would be different. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the distant sound of chickens clucking. For a disorienting moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory returned, the ranch, Joe, safety, and she sat up slowly, her muscles stiff from yesterday's desperate run. The clock on the nightstand read 9:47 a.m. She'd slept for nearly 12 hours. When she emerged from the bedroom, she found Joe at the kitchen table with a laptop and a mug of coffee. The older woman looked up and smiled. "There's fresh coffee in the pot. Help yourself to anything in the fridge." Maya poured coffee with shaking hands, not from fear this time, but from the strangeness of normalcy. "You don't have to feed me. I have some money." "Keep your money," Joe said firmly. "You're going to need it. Besides, I've got more eggs than I know what to do with. The chickens don't take days off." Maya made herself toast, still feeling like an intruder despite Joe's warmth. She was finishing her second cup of coffee when the sound of motorcycles rumbled up the dirt road. Her whole body tensed. "It's okay," Joe said calmly. "That's just Hawk and a couple of the others. They wanted to talk to you, but only if you're up for it." Maya's hands tightened around her mug. "About what?" "About what happens next." 3 bikes pulled up outside, Hawk's massive Harley in the lead, followed by 2 others. Maya watched through the window as the riders dismounted. Hawk she recognized. The other 2 were new, a younger man with a shaved head and serious eyes, and a woman with red hair pulled into a high ponytail. They filed into the kitchen, their leather vests creaking. Up close, Maya noticed something she'd missed before: the patches on their vests weren't just club insignia. Each one bore the same emblem, a shield with the words, "Steel Guardians," arched over it, and below, a motto, "We stand for those who can't." "Maya," Hawk said by way of greeting. "This is Jax and Casey. They're part of the protection detail." "Protection detail?" Maya repeated. Casey, the redhead, pulled out a chair and sat down. Her voice was brisk but not unkind. "We help people disappear when they need to. Relocate safely. Start over. But we're not just a ride out of town, we're strategic about it." Jax remained standing, his arms crossed. "We need to know what we're dealing with. You said the guy after you is a sheriff. That means he's got resources, access to databases, other law enforcement, the whole system backing him up." Maya felt her stomach knot. "So you can't help me." "Didn't say that," Hawk cut in. "But we need to be smart. Running isn't enough. Men like Dalton don't stop. They see you as property, and they'll use every tool they've got to get their property back." The bluntness made Maya flinch, but there was something almost liberating about hearing someone say it out loud. That's exactly what Dalton thought. That she belonged to him. So what do we do? She asked quietly. Casey leaned forward. We remove his power. Can't chase you if he loses his badge. Maya laughed, a bitter, hopeless sound. You can't do that. Everyone loves him. He's the town hero. You're just the girl who got away, Jack said. But you won't be the only one. Guys like him? They have patterns. Other victims. We find them, we document everything, and we build a case that even his friends can't ignore. Maya stared at them. You've done this before. 17 times, Hawk said. Abusive partners, corrupt officials, gang leaders. We've helped 17 people escape situations where the person hunting them had power and protection. Some of them are living quiet lives now under their real names. Some had to relocate. But all of them are free. Casey pulled out her phone and showed Maya the club's patch up close. Steel Guardians. That's not just a cool name. It's our mission. We're not a traditional MC, we don't deal drugs, run guns, or get into turf wars. We protect people who've run out of options. Why? The question burst out of Maya before she could stop it. Why would you risk yourselves for strangers? The three bikers exchanged glances. Finally, Hawk spoke. Everyone in this club has a story. Someone we couldn't protect. Someone we lost because we didn't know how to help, or we were too late, or we didn't believe them fast enough. His voice was heavy with old pain. My sister ran from her husband 6 times. 6 times, he found her and dragged her back. The 7th time, she didn't survive long enough to run. The kitchen fell silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. After that, Hawk continued, I decided no one else would die because they had nowhere to go. I started small, helping friends get out of bad situations, learning how to do it right. Then Casey joined after her niece. My niece was stalked by her college professor, Casey said flatly. He had tenure, connections, respect. She had nothing but her word. He destroyed her academic career because she rejected him. I couldn't stop it then. But I can stop it now, for others. Jax's story was simpler, foster kid. Ran from an abusive home at 15. A biker helped me when no one else would. I'm paying it forward. Maya felt tears burning her eyes. These weren't criminals. They were survivors, each carrying their own scars, choosing to turn their pain into protection for others. So here's what we do, Hawk said, his tone shifting to business. You stay here, rest, recover. We investigate Dalton, quietly. We find evidence of his pattern. And we expose him so thoroughly that he loses everything. His badge, his reputation, his power. And if that doesn't work? Maya whispered. Casey's smile was sharp. Then we move to Plan B. But trust me, Plan A usually works just fine. Sheriff Marcus Dalton sat at his desk, the missing person report spread before him like a blueprint for victory. He'd spent the morning crafting it carefully, every word designed to paint the exact picture he needed. Maya Chen, 22, Asian American female, 5 feet 4 inches, 115 pounds. Last seen leaving her apartment approximately 3 a.m. History of depression following parental death. May be experiencing a mental health crisis. Consider endangered. That last part was crucial. Endangered gave him legal justification for an aggressive search. It meant he could pull resources, question people extensively, and cast a wide net, all while looking like the hero. Deputy Evans knocked on his door. Sheriff? I've got something. Dalton looked up, his expression carefully neutral. What is it? I talked to Jimmy at the gas end, go up on Highway 14. He remembers someone matching Maya's description, young Asian woman with a duffel bag, walking north around 4 a.m. He thought about offering her a ride but she looked. He said she looked scared, so he left her alone. North. Dalton had been right. Anything else up that way? Not much. Some Forest Service roads, a few ranches. And Iron Mountain, that's about 5 miles from where Jimmy saw her. Iron Mountain. Dalton pulled up the location on his computer. Population, 287. One gas station, one bar. The kind of place people passed through but never stopped. What's in Iron Mountain? Evans shrugged. Not much. There's Lucky's Bar, it's a biker hangout mostly. Gets rough on weekends, but nothing we've had to deal with. Different county, different jurisdiction. Biker bar. Dalton's mind raced. Maya wouldn't go to a place like that voluntarily. Which meant either someone picked her up, or... I want you to drive up there, Dalton said. Show her picture around. Be casual about it, just say we're doing a welfare check on a missing person. See if anyone remembers seeing her. Evans hesitated. Sheriff, that's Carbon County. Technically we'd need to coordinate with their department. It's a welfare check, not an arrest, Dalton cut him off smoothly. We're just asking questions, making sure a vulnerable young woman is safe. I'm sure Sheriff Bradley won't mind us looking out for one of our citizens. Evans nodded and left. Dalton sat back in his chair, thinking. If Maya had made it to Iron Mountain, someone there knew something. And if she'd gotten mixed up with bikers, well, that just made his job easier. He picked up his phone and dialed Sheriff Tom Bradley of Carbon County. They'd worked together on a few cases over the years. Bradley was older, lazy, the kind of sheriff who avoided conflict and let his deputies do the real work. Tom, it's Marcus Dalton down in Pinewood. I need a favor. Sure thing, Marcus. What's going on? I've got a missing person, young woman, early 20s, might have passed through Iron Mountain yesterday. I'm sending my deputy up to ask around. Just wanted to give you a heads up. No problem. What's the situation? Dalton pitched his voice to concerned and slightly embarrassed. Well, she's been struggling since her parents died. I've been trying to help her, checking in on her, that kind of thing. But she's gotten it into her head that he laughed self-deprecatingly, that I'm harassing her or something. It's not true, of course. I think she's just confused, maybe paranoid. Mental health stuff. Geez. That's tough. Yeah. Anyway, she took off in the middle of the night. I'm worried she might hurt herself, or get into trouble. If she's up your way, I just want to make sure she's safe. Bring her home where she can get help. Of course. I'll let my boys know to keep an eye out. You got a picture? Sending it now. Dalton attached Maya's photo to a text, the one from her employee file at the diner, where she was smiling, looking young and innocent. I really appreciate this, Tom. I just want to make sure she's okay. That's what we do, right? Look out for our people. After he hung up, Dalton allowed himself a small smile. Perfect. Now he had 2 county sheriff departments looking for Maya, all under the guise of public safety. And the narrative was set: troubled young woman, concerned sheriff, mental health crisis. No one would question him. No one would think to ask if maybe, just maybe, she had a good reason to run. He pulled up Maya's social media on his computer. Her Facebook hadn't been updated in months, Instagram was private, no Twitter. She'd been smart about her digital footprint. But that didn't matter. He had her phone number, and he had contacts. One call to his buddy at the cell phone company, framed as official police business, would give him her phone's location. If she'd been stupid enough to keep it on. But the phone had been off since 3 a.m. Either she'd turned it off deliberately, or someone had told her to. The second option bothered him. It suggested she wasn't alone anymore. That someone was helping her. His desk phone rang. The dispatcher. "Sheriff, there's a woman here to see you. Says she's Maya's friend from the diner, Stephanie something. Says she has information about where Maya might have gone." Dalton's pulse quickened. "Send her in." A young woman entered his office, nervously clutching her purse. Stephanie worked the evening shift at the diner. He'd seen her around but never paid much attention. "Sheriff Dalton? I heard you're looking for Maya." "I am." "Please, sit. Do you know something?" Stephanie perched on the edge of the chair. "I don't know if this helps, but Maya was really scared lately. She asked me a few weeks ago if I knew anyone who could help someone disappear. Like, really disappear." Dalton kept his face neutral. "Did she say why?" "No. But she seemed terrified. I thought maybe she was in some kind of trouble, like an abusive ex or something." "Did you give her any names?" Stephanie shook her head. "I didn't know anyone. But I told her. God, I hope this wasn't a mistake. I told her sometimes people who need help go to motorcycle clubs. That some of them help women get away from bad situations." Everything clicked into place. The biker bar. Iron Mountain. Maya hadn't just run. She'd run to someone. Maya's third morning at the ranch began with the sound of horses nickering for their breakfast. She'd been waking earlier each day, her body slowly remembering what it felt like to rest without fear. Joe was already in the kitchen, as always, coffee brewing and eggs ready to fry. The older woman had a routine that Maya found comforting in its predictability. "Sleep okay?" Joe asked. "Better than okay." Maya poured herself coffee. "I dreamed about normal things. My mom's garden. My dad's terrible jokes. Not him," Joe finished. "That's good. That's your brain starting to believe you're safe." After breakfast, Joe handed Maya a basket. "The chickens need feeding. You up for it?" Maya had never fed chickens in her life. Her parents had lived in a suburb with a postage stamp lawn, but she nodded. Joe showed her how to scatter the feed, how to check for eggs in the nesting boxes, how to talk to the birds like they were ridiculous, feathered roommates. "That one's Henrietta," Joe said, pointing to a particularly bossy hen. "She's a pain in the ass but she lays the best eggs. And that's Mabel, sweet as pie but dumb as a rock." Maya laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in weeks. The sound surprised her. Over the next few days, she fell into the ranch's rhythm. Feeding chickens. Helping Joe weed the vegetable garden. Learning to curry the horses, her hands gentle on their warm, solid bodies. The work was simple, physical, grounding. Risa visited daily, sometimes bringing Casey or other club members. They never pushed Maya to talk about Dalton or the future. Instead, they taught her practical things. Casey showed her basic self-defense, not complicated martial arts, just simple moves. Aim for the eyes, throat, or groin. Make noise. Your goal isn't to win a fight, it's to get away. Jax taught her how to check if she was being followed, how to vary her routine, how to trust her instincts. Your gut told you to run. That instinct saved your life. Don't ever ignore it again. One afternoon, Risa brought supplies for making friendship bracelets, embroidery thread in every color imaginable. "This is silly," Risa admitted, "but my therapist taught me after some bad stuff. It keeps your hands busy. Gives your brain something to focus on besides the scary things." Maya picked up the threads hesitantly. Her grandmother had taught her to braid when she was little, hair, ribbons, anything. Her fingers remembered the patterns, the over-under rhythm. She started with simple 3-strand braids, then moved to more complex designs. It was meditative. The bright threads wove together, creating something beautiful from individual pieces. She made a bracelet in shades of blue and silver, then started another in red and black. "Those are pretty," Joe said that evening, examining Maya's work. "I used to make these with my grandmother," Maya said softly. "Before she died. I'd forgotten." She'd forgotten a lot of things over the past 8 months. The person she'd been before Dalton had entered her life like a poison, slowly contaminating everything. She'd been planning to study veterinary medicine. She'd loved hiking. She'd had friends, plans, a future. Dalton had stolen all of it, piece by piece, until she'd been too afraid and isolated to remember who she'd been. But here, in the quiet safety of the ranch, fragments of herself were returning. One morning, Maya woke early and made breakfast before Joe came downstairs: scrambled eggs with cheese and herbs from the garden, toast, fresh coffee. Joe's face when she entered the kitchen made Maya's chest warm. "You didn't have to do this," Joe said. "I wanted to. You've done so much for me. This is. It's not enough, but it's something." Joe sat down, her eyes suspiciously bright. "Maya, you don't owe me anything. But thank you. This is lovely." They ate together as sunrise painted the mountains gold. Maya realized she was starting to feel like a person again, not just a problem to be solved or prey to be hunted. That afternoon, Hawk arrived with news. Maya's stomach clenched when she saw his serious expression. "Dalton's been busy," he said, sitting at the kitchen table. "He filed a missing person report. Listed you as endangered, possibly suicidal." Maya's hands shook. "I'm not, I would never." "We know," Hawk said calmly. "But that's his play. Makes him look concerned, gives him legal cover to search aggressively. He's got Carbon County Sheriff helping now, asking questions in Iron Mountain." Fear spiked through her. Did they? No one at Lucky's talked. Bikers don't chat with cops, especially about people who need help. But he knows you came this direction. He's narrowing the search. Maya felt the fragile peace she'd built over the past few days start to crack. Maybe I should just keep running. Go somewhere far away. No, Hawk's voice was firm. Running forever isn't living. We stick to the plan. We take away his power so you can take back your life. Risa appeared in the doorway, carrying a laptop. "We're not just sitting around waiting. We've been digging. And Maya, we found something." Maya's heart hammered. "What?" "You're not the first." Risa opened the laptop, showing a document. 3 years ago, there was a complaint filed against Dalton by a woman named Jennifer Torres. She worked at the library. Said he was showing up at her house uninvited, following her, making her uncomfortable. "What happened to the complaint?" Maya asked, though she already knew. "Disappeared from the official record. But we found a copy in the county clerk's backup files." Casey had joined them, her expression grim. "Jennifer left town 6 months after filing. No forwarding address. We're trying to find her now." Maya stared at the screen. Another woman. Another victim. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't overreacting. This was Dalton's pattern. "There might be others," Hawk said. "We're looking. Every woman we find, every complaint we uncover, that's ammunition. That's how we destroy him." Maya picked up the bracelet she'd been working on, blue and silver, almost complete. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. "Find them," she said quietly. "Find all of them." Hawk made the call from Joe's front porch, watching the sun dip behind the mountains. The voice that answered was gravelly, familiar. "Lewis? It's Hawk. I need your help." Marcus Lewis had been a private investigator for 23 years before retiring to a cabin in Montana. He was also a Steel Guardian, one of the original members who'd helped Hawk build the club into what it was today. "What have you got?" Lewis asked. "Corrupt small-town sheriff. Stalking pattern, abuse of power, probably multiple victims. We need deep background, financial records, disciplinary history, anything that doesn't show up in public records." Lewis was quiet for a moment. "Name?" "Marcus Dalton. Pinewood, Wyoming. Been sheriff for 6 years. I'll start digging. Give me 48 hours. Hawk's next call was to Judge Patricia Moreno in Cheyenne. She'd retired from the bench 2 years ago after presiding over domestic violence cases for 3 decades. She'd also been the judge who'd helped Hawk's club gain legitimacy when local law enforcement had tried to shut them down, claiming they were a criminal organization. "Patricia, I need a legal consult. I'm retired, Hawk. You know that. This isn't official. It's about a girl who ran from a sheriff who was stalking her. We're helping her, but he's using his badge to hunt her down. Missing person report, welfare check, the whole playbook." Patricia sighed. "Of course he is. What do you need?" "Advice on how to document everything legally. We're building a case against him, pattern evidence, witness testimony. When we're ready, we need it to be airtight." "Smart. Send me what you've got so far. I'll review it and tell you what else you need. And Hawk? Be careful. Cops protect their own. I know. That's why we're going outside the system." The third call went to Diana Reeves, an investigative journalist in Casper. She'd broken the story on a county commissioner's embezzlement scheme 2 years ago and won a regional award for it. More importantly, she'd helped expose a domestic violence case where a police captain had been abusing his wife, a story other outlets had refused to touch. Diana Reeves. "Ms. Reeves, my name is Hawk. I'm calling about a story you might be interested in. Off the record, for now. I'm listening. Small-town sheriff in Wyoming. Pattern of stalking behavior toward young women. Uses his authority to intimidate them into silence. We have a victim who escaped, and we're looking for others." There was a pause, then the sound of a pen clicking. "Tell me more." Hawk outlined the situation carefully, enough detail to hook her interest, not enough to compromise Maya's safety. When he finished, Diana was silent for a long moment. "You said you're a motorcycle club?" "Steel Guardians. We help people escape dangerous situations." "I've heard of you. Did a search and rescue case up in Sheridan last year, didn't you? Missing teenager?" "We did. And you found her when the cops couldn't." Diana's voice shifted, interest sharpening. "Okay. Here's the deal. I'll help you investigate, but if this is real, if you can prove a pattern, I get the exclusive. I break the story. That's exactly what we want. Exposure. Pressure. Make it impossible for his department to protect him. Then we have a deal. Send me everything you've got." Back inside the ranch house, Risa and Casey had set up a makeshift command center at the dining table, laptops, phones, legal pads covered in notes. Maya sat with them, no longer a passive victim but an active participant. "Jennifer Torres," Risa said, tapping her screen. "I found her. She's in Colorado now, Denver. Works at a bookstore. I haven't contacted her yet. Didn't want to approach without your input, Maya." Maya's throat tightened. Jennifer Torres. The woman whose complaint had vanished. What do we say to her? "Hi, remember that traumatic thing that happened 3 years ago? Want to talk about it with strangers?" "We tell her the truth," Casey said. "That she's not alone. That another woman is going through the same thing. That together, you might be able to stop him." "She might not want to help," Maya said quietly. "She got away. Maybe she just wants to forget." Maybe, Risa agreed. But maybe she's been waiting for someone to believe her. That evening, they composed an email together, carefully worded, respectful, honest. Maya read it 3 times before they sent it. Dear Ms. Torres, my name is Maya Chen. 3 years ago, you filed a complaint against Sheriff Marcus Dalton of Pinewood, Wyoming. I'm writing because I'm currently experiencing the same pattern of behavior you described: stalking, unwanted attention, abuse of his authority. I ran 2 weeks ago. I'm safe now, with people who are helping me build a case against him. But I need to know if there are others. If you're willing to share your experience, it could help stop him from doing this to anyone else. I understand if you'd rather not respond. You don't owe me or anyone else your story. But if you're willing to talk, I'm here. We're here. Maya. They hit send, and then there was nothing to do but wait. Jax arrived with takeout, Chinese food from a restaurant 2 towns over. They ate mostly in silence, the weight of the investigation settling over them. Lewis will come through, Jack said, breaking the quiet. If there's dirt on Dalton, financial, professional, personal, Lewis will find it. And Patricia will make sure we don't screw up the legal side, Risa added. Maya pushed her fried rice around her plate. What if it's not enough? What if we find evidence and no one cares because he's a sheriff and I'm nobody? Hawk leaned forward, his expression serious. That's why we're building a network. One victim is a he said she said. One complaint is an anomaly. But multiple victims, financial irregularities, misconduct patterns, media attention, that's a wildfire. Can't ignore it, can't cover it up. Casey's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her eyes widened. Holy shit. What? Everyone asked simultaneously. Jennifer Torres. She just responded. The table went silent. Casey turned her phone so Maya could see. The email was short. I'll talk. When can we meet? The video call connected with a soft chime. Jennifer Torres appeared on Risa's laptop screen, mid-30s, dark hair pulled into a ponytail, wearing glasses and a bookstore employee shirt. Her eyes found Maya immediately. You look younger than I expected, Jennifer said softly. Maya's hands twisted in her lap. I'm 22. I was 29 when it started, Jennifer's jaw tightened. He likes them young, vulnerable. Isolated. They talked for 2 hours. Jennifer's story was hauntingly familiar. Dalton had started showing up at the library where she worked, always friendly, always just checking out books. Then he'd begun appearing at her apartment, at the coffee shop she frequented, at her gym. When she'd asked him to stop, he'd gotten that look, the one Maya recognized, like she'd insulted him deeply. I filed a complaint, Jennifer said. Went through official channels. The department investigated for 2 weeks, then told me they found no evidence of wrongdoing. My complaint disappeared from the system entirely. A month later, my car got vandalized. Then someone broke into my apartment, nothing stolen, but everything moved around, just enough to let me know someone had been there. Did you report it? Casey asked. Jennifer laughed bitterly. To who? The sheriff's department? I knew it was him. Or someone doing him a favor. So I left. Started over in Denver. Changed my phone number, deleted all social media. Spent 3 years looking over my shoulder. Would you be willing to go on record? Hawk asked. Give an official statement? Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. If I do this, he'll know where I am. He'll be too busy defending himself to come after you, Risa said. We're not just collecting statements. We're building a public case that destroys his credibility. Who else have you found? Jennifer asked. So far, just you and Maya, Casey admitted. But we're looking. There have to be others. Jennifer nodded slowly. There was a girl who worked at the gas station. Ashley something. She quit suddenly, and people said she left town. This was maybe 4 years ago. I remember because I saw her a week before she left. She looked terrified. Jax was already typing. Last name? I don't know. But she was young, blonde, early 20s. Someone in Pinewood would remember her. After the call ended, Maya sat in silence, processing. 2 women. 2 similar stories. The pattern was undeniable. Over the next week, the investigation accelerated. Lewis called with his findings. Dalton's finances are interesting. His salary is $68,000 a year, but he's made several large purchases in the past 3 years: new truck, expensive hunting equipment, a boat. His bank records show regular deposits that don't match his paychecks. Where's the money coming from? Hawk asked. Can't prove it yet, but I've got a theory. Pinewood has a problem with meth coming through from the interstate. Some of that product disappears during busts, not all of it, just enough. I think Dalton's skimming and selling it back. Hawk's expression darkened. That's federal. It is. And if we can prove it, the FBI gets involved. Local cops can't protect him from that. Diana Reeves tracked down Ashley Morrison, the gas station girl Jennifer remembered. She was living in Oregon now, married with a baby. When Diana contacted her, Ashley broke down crying. I thought I was crazy, Ashley told them over the phone. He was the sheriff. Everyone loved him. But he wouldn't leave me alone. He'd come into the gas station 3-4 times a day. Knew my schedule. Knew where I lived. I was 19. I didn't know what to do. What made you leave? Diana asked gently. He followed me home one night. Knocked on my door at midnight, said he wanted to check on me. I could smell alcohol on his breath. I told him to leave, and he got this look, like I'd slapped him. He said, "You're making a mistake, Ashley. I've been very patient with you." I left the next day. Didn't even give notice at work. 3 women. 3 identical patterns. Diana had her story. Judge Moreno reviewed all the evidence, statements, timelines, financial records, the disappeared complaint. This is solid, she told Hawk. I'm sending formal misconduct reports to the Wyoming Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission and the State Attorney General's office. They'll have to investigate. Diana published her article on a Friday morning. The headline read, "Shield of Abuse, How a Wyoming Sheriff Used His Badge to Stalk Young Women." The story was devastating. 3 named victims, detailed accounts, expert analysis of how abusers use authority to control. Diana had even found a 4th woman, a college student who'd filed a restraining order against Dalton 5 years ago, before he was sheriff. The order had been denied because Dalton was a deputy at the time, and the judge had called the girl oversensitive. The article went viral within hours. Local news picked it up. Then regional. By afternoon, it was trending on social media. At the ranch, Maya watched the story spread across the internet, her hands shaking. Casey sat beside her, steady and calm. "This is it," Casey said. "This is how we take his power away." By evening, the Wyoming State Police announced they were opening an investigation into Sheriff Dalton. The county commissioners called an emergency meeting. The Pinewood Town Council issued a statement saying they took the allegations very seriously. Dalton's carefully constructed image was crumbling in real time. Hawk's phone rang. It was Tom Bradley, the Carbon County Sheriff. "Hawk. I owe you an apology. Dalton called me 2 weeks ago, said he was looking for a missing girl. I helped him. I didn't know." "Now you do," Hawk said simply. "Yeah. Now I do. Listen, if that girl is with you, tell her she's safe. Dalton's been suspended pending investigation. He doesn't have his badge anymore. Hawk found Maya in the guest room, staring at her grandmother's necklace. It's done, he said. He's suspended. Can't chase you anymore. Maya looked up, tears streaming down her face. But for the first time since Hawk had met her, she was smiling. Marcus Dalton sat in his truck outside Lucky's bar, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles had turned white. The badge that had been his armor for 6 years was gone, surrendered 3 days ago when the state police had shown up at his office with suspension papers. 3 days since his world had exploded. The article. Those women. Maya had done this. That ungrateful little bitch had destroyed everything he'd built. He'd spent the last 72 hours watching his life disintegrate. His deputies wouldn't meet his eyes. The town he'd protected, the people he'd helped, they looked at him like he was a monster. His phone hadn't stopped ringing with reporters, lawyers, investigators. And it was all her fault. He knew she was here. Had to be. The Steel Guardians had protected her, hidden her, helped her build the case against him. Now he'd come to deliver a message: this wasn't over. Dalton stepped out of his truck. He wasn't wearing his uniform, couldn't anymore, just jeans and a jacket. But he'd brought his service weapon. Not to use. Just to remind them who they were dealing with. The bar was quiet this early in the evening. A few bikes were parked outside, the club was here. Good. He pushed through the door. The interior was dim, smelling of beer and leather. Half a dozen bikers sat at the bar and scattered tables. All conversation stopped when Dalton entered. Eyes locked onto him, cold, assessing, hostile. Hawk stood from a table in the back, unfolding to his full height. He didn't look surprised. He looked like he'd been expecting this. Bars closed to you, Hawk said flatly. This is a public establishment, Dalton replied, forcing his voice to stay calm. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to talk. About what? Casey appeared from behind the bar, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp. About how you stalked 3 women? Or about how you're under investigation for corruption? Dalton's jaw clenched. That article is full of lies. Character assassination. You helped that girl, Maya, you helped her destroy an innocent man's reputation. Innocent, Hawk's voice was flat, emotionless. That's an interesting word choice. 2 more Steel Guardians moved into position near the door, not blocking it, but present. Watching. Dalton recognized the tactic. They were boxing him in without making it obvious. Where is she? Dalton asked. I just want to talk to her. Clear this up. She's not property, Hawk said, taking a step forward. His presence was massive, immovable. She says no. That's the end of your claim. My claim? Dalton's carefully maintained control cracked. I was helping her. Her parents died, she was alone, struggling. I looked out for her. And this is how she repays me? By running? Risa emerged from the back hallway, her arms crossed. Funny thing, people don't usually run from people who are helping them. Dalton's hand moved toward his jacket, not for his weapon, just a reflexive gesture of frustration. But every biker in the room tensed, hands moving to their own sides. Easy, Hawk said, his voice carrying a warning. You're not a cop anymore, Dalton. You're just a man in a bar where you're not welcome. And these folks? They don't respect your authority because you don't have any. The words hit Dalton like a physical blow. No authority. That's what they'd taken from him. The badge, the respect, the power, all of it gone because Maya Chen couldn't appreciate what he'd offered her. I could have given her everything, Dalton said, his voice shaking now. Security. Protection. A future. But she ran to you people, criminals in leather who think you're heroes. We don't think we're heroes, Casey said. We just help people who need it. No strings attached. No ownership required. You poisoned her against me. No, Maya's voice came from the hallway, clear and steady. Dalton's head snapped around. There she was, Maya Chen, the girl who'd destroyed him. She looked different. Stronger. Her shoulders were back, her chin raised. Behind her stood Jax, a silent guardian. You did that yourself, Maya continued, walking into the main room. Dalton noticed she kept the bar between them, smart, cautious. Every time you showed up uninvited. Every time you learned something about me I never told you. Every time you made me feel like I couldn't say no. I was being friendly. You were being controlling, Maya's voice didn't waver. You wanted me to be grateful. To owe you. And when I tried to create boundaries, you punished me for it. That's not. Jennifer Torres filed a complaint 3 years ago, Maya cut him off. Ashley Morrison ran 4 years ago. That college student tried to get a restraining order 5 years ago. I'm not the first, Marcus. I'm just the first one who had help. Dalton stared at her. In his mind, Maya had always been soft, vulnerable, someone who needed him. But the woman standing before him was none of those things. She was strong, clear-eyed, unafraid. He'd lost her. Not just physically, but the entire narrative he'd built in his head. You've ruined my life, he said quietly. No, Hawk said, moving to stand beside Maya, not in front of her, but beside her. You ruined your own life. You just got caught. Dalton looked around the room. Every face showed the same expression, disgust, contempt, dismissal. These people weren't afraid of him. They didn't respect him. To them, he was nothing. The realization hollowed him out. This isn't over, he said, though even he could hear how empty the threat sounded. Yes, it is, Maya's voice was firm, final. I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding. And you don't get to have any part of my life. Not ever again. Dalton turned and walked toward the door. The bikers moved aside, letting him pass. He expected them to say something, a parting shot, a warning. But they gave him nothing. Not even their attention. He was irrelevant. As he climbed into his truck, Dalton caught sight of his reflection in the rearview mirror. Without the uniform, without the badge, he barely recognized himself. Inside the bar, Maya exhaled slowly. Her hands were shaking now that the confrontation was over, but she'd done it. She'd faced him and hadn't broken. You okay? Hawk asked quietly. Maya nodded. Yeah. I think I really am. The investigation moved fast once Dalton lost his protection. 2 days after the confrontation at Lucky's bar, Lewis called with the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. Hawk put him on speakerphone so everyone gathered at the ranch could hear. I've got bank records showing regular cash deposits, $500 to $2,000, every few weeks for the past 3 years. Dalton was careful, kept them under the reporting threshold, but the pattern is clear. Can you trace where the money came from? Risa asked. That's where it gets interesting, Lewis said. I cross-referenced the dates with Pinewood PD's drug bust records. Every time they seized cash or product, Dalton made a deposit within 72 hours. He's been skimming from evidence. Maya felt sick. He was stealing drug money. And probably reselling the drugs, Lewis confirmed. I found 3 informants who claim Dalton sold meth back to dealers. They're willing to testify if they get immunity. Hawk leaned back in his chair, thinking. That brings federal attention. Already happening, Lewis said. I sent an anonymous tip to the DEA 3 days ago. They've opened an investigation. Once they audit the evidence room, Dalton's done. Judge Moreno called that afternoon with more news. The Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission has reviewed the complaints. Combined with the pattern evidence Diana published and the new victims coming forward, they're recommending permanent revocation of Dalton's law enforcement certification. How many new victims? Maya asked, her voice quiet. 4 more women have come forward since the article, Patricia said gently. Different towns, different time frames, but the same pattern. You opened a door, Maya. These women felt safe enough to speak because you spoke first. 7 women total. Maya tried to process that number. 7 lives disrupted, 7 women who'd lived in fear because one man had a badge and an obsession. Diana Reeves arrived at the ranch that evening, bringing printed copies of her follow-up article. The headline read, "Breaking the Shield, How Victims and Advocates Exposed a Corrupt Sheriff." This one's different, Diana explained, spreading the pages across Joe's kitchen table. The first article was about Dalton. This one's about all of you, the network that took him down. The Steel Guardians, the private investigator, the retired judge, the victims who found their voices. Maya read through the article slowly. Diana had interviewed Jennifer, Ashley, and 2 of the new victims. She documented how the Steel Guardians operated, not as vigilantes, but as a support system that helped people escape and then methodically built cases against their abusers. We've helped 17 people over the years, Hawk told Diana during the interview. But we can't do it alone. We need lawyers, investigators, journalists, safe houses. We need a network that believes victims and fights for them when the system fails. The article included a sidebar about resources for stalking victims, hotlines, legal aid organizations, advocacy groups. Diana had turned Maya's nightmare into a roadmap for others. "This is incredible," Maya said, looking up at Diana. "Thank you." "Thank you," Diana replied. This story needed to be told. And Maya, you've already gotten emails. Other victims asking for help. People who saw the article and realized they're not alone. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She stood at her bedroom window, watching moonlight paint the mountains silver, thinking about those emails. Other women, other stories, other Marcus Daltons using power to terrorize and control. She found Joe in the kitchen, as always, nursing a cup of chamomile tea. "Can't sleep?" Joe asked. Maya shook her head. "I keep thinking about the others. The women who reached out. What if there are more? What if this keeps happening?" Joe gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit down. Let me tell you something." Maya sat, wrapping her hands around the mug of tea Joe poured for her. 20 years ago, I ran from a man who thought he owned me, Joe said. Different situation than yours, but same fear. The Steel Guardians helped me disappear, gave me this ranch, actually. It belonged to one of the founding members. She left it to the club with instructions to use it as a safe house. I didn't know that, Maya said softly. The club's been around for 30 years. Started by a woman named Sarah Donovan after her sister was killed by an abusive husband the police wouldn't arrest. Sarah was a biker, knew other bikers, and she said, if the system won't protect people, we will. Joe sipped her tea, her eyes distant with memory. Sarah's gone now. Cancer, 5 years back. But her mission lives on. Hawk, Risa, Casey, Jax, all of them are carrying Sarah's torch. And now you are too. Me? Maya blinked. You survived. You spoke up. You helped take down someone who used his power to hurt people. That matters, Maya. That ripples outward. The next morning, Hawk gathered everyone at the ranch, the full Steel Guardians crew, Diana, and Patricia on video call. The DEA raided the Pinewood Sheriff's Department this morning, Hawk announced. They found discrepancies in the evidence room going back 4 years. Dalton's under federal investigation for embezzlement and drug trafficking. Casey hooped. Risa hugged Maya tight. The state attorney general is also charging him with stalking and harassment, 7 counts, Patricia added. They're taking this seriously now. He's looking at federal charges and state charges. Even if he beats some of them, he's done. Maya felt something shift in her chest, not quite relief, but something close. Justice. Accountability. Dalton couldn't hurt anyone else. There's more, Diana said, pulling out her laptop. After the second article, I was contacted by a documentary filmmaker. She wants to do a piece about the Steel Guardians, how you operate, the people you've helped. National exposure. Hawk looked at his crew. What do you think? I think, Risa said slowly, that the more people know we exist, the more people we can help. Jax nodded. Agreed. We've been quiet too long. Time to show people there are alternatives when the system fails. Maya looked around at these people, her protectors, her friends, her family now. They'd given her back her life. And now they were offering others the same gift. I want to help, Maya said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. With the club. With other people who need to escape. I want to be part of this. Hawk smiled, the first real smile Maya had seen from him. We were hoping you'd say that. 3 months later, Maya stood in the parking lot of Lucky's bar, watching autumn leaves tumble across the gravel. The mountains were dusted with early snow, and the air smelled like pine and approaching winter. Inside, the Steel Guardians were having their monthly gathering, a tradition where they checked in on past cases, discussed new ones, and simply existed as a community. Maya had attended 2 of these meetings now, no longer as someone being protected, but as someone learning to protect others. Dalton's trial had been scheduled for next spring. The federal charges alone carried a potential 20-year sentence. The state charges for stalking and harassment would run concurrently. His lawyer was already negotiating a plea deal. But Maya tried not to think about Dalton anymore. He'd taken up enough space in her mind. She'd spent the last 3 months at the ranch, helping Joe with the horses and the land, making friendship bracelets on the porch while Risa taught her about legal advocacy. Casey had continued the self-defense lessons. Jax had shown her how to rebuild a motorcycle engine, patience, precision, the satisfaction of making broken things work again. Maya had also enrolled in online classes. Not veterinary medicine, not yet. First, she was studying social work and victim advocacy. If she was going to help people escape dangerous situations, she wanted to do it right. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer Torres, "How's Wyoming treating you?" Maya smiled and typed back, "Cold but beautiful." "How's Denver?" "Good. Really good. Thank you again for everything. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up." Jennifer had visited the ranch once, and the 2 women had spent an entire afternoon talking, not just about Dalton, but about rebuilding, moving forward, reclaiming their lives. Jennifer was dating someone now, a kind man who respected boundaries. She was happy. Ashley Morrison had sent Maya a care package last month, baby clothes she'd knitted herself and a card that said simply, "You gave me closure. Thank you." 7 women. 7 survivors. They'd created a group chat, checking in on each other, sharing resources, celebrating victories. They called themselves the Shield Breakers. The bar door opened and Hawk stepped out, his breath fogging in the cold air. "You okay out here?" he asked. "Yeah. Just thinking." "About?" Maya pulled the blue and silver bracelet from her pocket, the one she'd finished weeks ago but hadn't known what to do with. "I'm leaving next week. The apartment in Laramie is ready. I start classes in person in January." Hawk nodded. He'd known this was coming. "You sure you're ready?" "I'll never feel completely ready," Maya admitted. But I can't stay here forever. Joe's ranch is a sanctuary, but it's not my life. I need to build that myself. Dalton is in jail awaiting trial, Maya finished. No bail because he's a flight risk. I know. I check the court records every day, she smiled wryly. Casey says that's normal, that I'll stop eventually. You will, Hawk said. When you're ready. Maya held out the bracelet. This is for you. For everything you did. Everything the club did. Hawk took it carefully, examining the intricate pattern, blue for trust, silver for strength. His large, calloused hands looked incongruous holding something so delicate. Maya, he said quietly, you don't owe us anything. I know. But I want you to have it anyway. He slipped it over his wrist. It barely fit, but he didn't take it off. You walked away from him, Hawk said, his voice rough with emotion. That's your victory. Not ours. We just made sure you didn't have to keep running. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I was so scared. For so long, I thought I was crazy, that I was overreacting. You weren't. Your fear was real. Your instincts saved you. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink behind the mountains. Inside the bar, someone started playing music, old country, the kind that felt like home even if you'd never been there before. The documentary filmmaker wants to interview you, Hawk said. For the film about the club. You don't have to. I'll do it, Maya said. If it helps even one person realize they're not alone, it's worth it. You've grown, Hawk observed. The girl who collapsed on our doorstep 3 months ago wouldn't have said that. Maya smiled. That girl was running on fumes and terror. This girl, she gestured to herself, has had time to remember who she is. Risa appeared in the doorway. Maya. We're about to start the meeting. You coming? Yeah, Maya turned back to Hawk. One more thing. I want to become a full member. Of the Steel Guardians. I know I'm young, I know I'm still learning, but... We voted last week, Hawk interrupted. You're in. If you want it. Maya's breath caught. Really? Really? Your vest is inside. Casey's been working on it. They walked back into Lucky's bar together. The club had gathered around a large table, Risa, Casey, Jax, and a dozen others Maya had come to know over the past months. In the center of the table lay a leather vest with the Steel Guardians patch, a shield, and beneath it, the words "We stand for those who can't." Casey held it up. Welcome home, Maya. Maya slipped the vest on. It fit perfectly, the leather still stiff and new, smelling of possibility. She looked around at these people, survivors, fighters, protectors. Her family now. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. For believing me. For fighting for me. For showing me I was worth saving. You saved yourself, Hawk said. You just needed backup. That night, Maya drove back to the ranch for her last week there. She packed her belongings slowly, touching each item with gratitude, the clothes Joe had given her, the books Risa had lent her, the toolkit Jax had helped her assemble. She placed her parents' photograph on top, their smiling faces looking up at her. I made it, she whispered to them. I'm going to be okay. The next morning, Maya fed the chickens one last time, said goodbye to the horses, and helped Joe make breakfast. They didn't talk much, didn't need to. Some things were understood. When it was time to leave, Joe hugged her tight. This will always be here, Joe said. If you need it. If anyone needs it. I know, Maya said. And I'll send people your way. People who need what I needed. She climbed into her car, a used Honda Civic the club had helped her buy, and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, she could see Joe waving from the porch, the ranch house solid and safe behind her. Maya drove toward Laramie, toward her new apartment, toward college classes and a future she was choosing for herself. The Steel Guardian's vest lay on the passenger seat, a reminder that she was never alone. She thought about Dalton, locked in a cell, his power stripped away. She didn't hate him anymore. She just felt sorry for him, a small man who tried to make himself big by making others feel small. But that chapter was closed now. Maya Chen was free. Not because someone had rescued her, but because she'd had the courage to run and the wisdom to accept help. Because she'd found people who believed her, fought for her, and showed her that survival was just the beginning. The real victory was in the living. As she drove, Maya noticed the friendship bracelet she'd tied to her rearview mirror, red and black, the colors of fire and earth. Transformation and strength. She smiled and turned up the radio. The road ahead was long, uncertain, full of possibility. And for the first time in a year, Maya couldn't wait to see where it led. The end.